Are you ready for a part 2? Because that's what we're doing this week, so make sure you get ready. So, hello writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kamal Onor. Now today I want to be talking more about rules of writing, because I feel I didn't focus enough on covering every topic there was in last week's video. So I'm going to give a little supplemental video on this week's. So make sure, if you find any value from this video, make sure to give this channel a good thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, help it grow. It means a lot. And with that said, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So I'm going to do my best to not repeat myself from the last video. So if you haven't seen that first video, it will be linked somewhere above. It'll also be linked in the description down below. And by the way, if you want to pre-order the ebook of my book, Curse of the Black Horn, that will also be linked down below. Paperback version is going to be coming out a little later on in the month of October. Mainly, I'm just waiting for the copyright to go through. Once that gets finalized, I will be able to offer paperback versions of my book. So make sure that you pre-order those as they become available. Again, those will also be in the link down below. But I want to be getting back into talking about rules, because rules is one of those things that I think so many beginning writers look for because they want to use them as a scaffolding. And this is a bad way to go about beginning writing, because when you're going about when you're over relying on rules, you end up validating your poor writing in a way that is, well, I'm following the rules and therefore my writing has to be good because I'm adhering to these rules. And understand again that rules can be broken. You shouldn't be so rigid with your approach to writing. It's not like laying brick. It's not something meticulous. But so understanding that rules are there to serve as a guideline, they are not something that you have to adhere to incredibly rigidly. There are plenty of authors. I personally am not a big fan of Gertrude Stein, whose work is very without rules because she feels that rules are stifling to creativity. And I think this is something that you can take away from her philosophy, is the idea that rules can certainly be stifling to your work as a creative, as you're creating. So this is why I highly recommend that as you're writing your work, I recommend that you don't be overly concerned about rules. Don't be so caught up in thinking, do I have to have a love character, I have to have a triangle here, I have to have X, Y, and Z has to happen in this order, or else I'm breaking some arbitrary rule. And rules of language are arbitrary. So many of them are arbitrary. The best time to analyze your writing in terms of rules, and in that first video, I very much touched on the idea of needing to know the rules of grammar. Yes, this is true, and that's going to allow you to know when you can break them. But don't be stifled with this idea of you have to follow plot rules. You have to have a protagonist. There are plenty of stories that have no true antagonists, that have no true protagonists, that have characters that are not well defined. There are so many stories and examples out there of authors who have broken the rules to great effect. And by seeking out rules, I think it is important to try and understand and learn grammar. But if you're seeking out plot rules, if you're seeking out or rules that must be adhered to, this is going to bog down your writing, because any rule, any over-reliance within your writing is going to bog down your story. Even if it's, I open every chapter with the same line, I use the same adjective to describe this character and only this character, this is going to become repetitive, and an over-reliance on rules and with strict rigidity in your writing is going to bog down your creativity. It's going to bore the reader, because the reader is going to be expecting what's going to come next. And you have to it's a balancing act. You have to adhere to the rules while also deviating in a way that isn't so unfamiliar but is still familiar for the reader so that the reader is capable of following. I think rules are, you need to understand the rules, yes, but also not relying on them so heavily that you're stifling your work, that you're blocking your creativity. When you're writing your story, when you're writing your rough draft, the best thing you can do is just tell the story to the best of your ability. And then when you're editing, when you're revising your work, look at your work incredibly critically. Make sure that your sentences are flowing correctly. And this is all done in the editing. If you're doing this while you're writing, it's going to be a slog to even get from start to finish for your story. So this is why understanding that rules are there, grammatically especially, but rules about stories, rules about plot, rules that say I have to have an antagonist, I have to have a protagonist, and they have to achieve some sort of pinnacle climax within the story. This is all stuff that it's interesting. It's stuff that you can certainly apply to your stories, but following it too strictly is going to be at a detriment to your ability to be creative. It's going to be a detriment to your ability to be free with your writing, because for every rule there is an exception, and that's very much how language works. That's how language has developed over time. That's how stories have been created over time. If every story was the same, if it was very much like ones and zeros, which I foresee AI writing becoming very much, if X happens, then this is going to be the plot that unfolds, and it's not going to be able to have that human element of experience. Sure, maybe years down the road, there might be some ability to program it in, but I don't see it being able to fully replace the human experience and the human ability to be as adaptive to storytelling and as adaptive to changing the way that stories can tell. You can change your approach. You want to be changing the rhythm of your sentences. You want to be changing the way that your characters evolve over the time of your story or your novel or whatever it is. And make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know, are there any rules that you follow in your writing? Do you have to have 3 characters to open a story? Are there any arbitrary rules that you follow in your writing that you think might help writers? By all means, put those in the comments down below. I want this to be a discussion board. I want to have a community where we're all writers helping other writers. So thank you so much for watching, and keep it spooky.
And now we must return to the shadows.